As the crisis in Ukraine worsens back here at home, inflation is still climbing at a record pace. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, it rose to 7.9% through the month of February due to rising prices for food, rent, and yes, gasoline. But the full impact of rising gas prices won't be known until next month, since current data only reflects the start of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. And that didn't stop President Biden from blaming Vladimir Putin, saying in a statement, quote, "Today's inflation report is a reminder that Americans' budgets are being stretched by price increases, and families are starting to feel the impacts of Putin's price hike. A large contributor to inflation this month was an increase in gas and energy prices as markets reacted to Putin's aggressive action." Joining me now is Robert Reich. He's a former labor secretary and is now a public policy professor at UC Berkeley. He's also the co-founder of Inequality Media. And Secretary Reich, I want to start off with what Senator Mitch McConnell said on the Senate floor earlier today about inflation. Let's take a listen to that.
But in the last few days, the Biden administration has tried to invent some laugh out loud revisionist history. They're trying to rebrand the entire increase in gas prices on their watch, listen to this, as an effect of Putin's recent invasion of Ukraine. So they want to blame 14 months of gas price increases on the last 2 weeks of turmoil. Washington Democrats' war on domestic energy long predates Putin's war on Ukraine.
So everybody's talking about inflation, but help us understand how much of it is tied to the global picture of what's happening. Obviously, we all are aware we're in a global pandemic. We're all watching on our screens the invasion of Ukraine, and people are talking about how that's going to make gas more expensive. Is all of that contributing to inflation? How so?
There really are four factors that are driving inflation right now. One big one is demand. I mean, consumers still are coming out of a pandemic. They have some money. Most consumers didn't spend all that much during the pandemic. And there's a great pent-up demand for goods, not so much for services. And that's the issue, because as consumers move back to demand for...
Oh, Secretary, I actually don't want people to miss your answer. Is that your phone? Because I just checked my phone. It's not my phone. Is it your phone ringing?
I think President Biden tries to get me, every hour or so, but I don't think he's trying.
Possible.
I don't know. It's not
completely
my phone.
Possible. Sorry to interrupt. I wanted to make sure people were completely concentrated on your answer. So just to restate the question much quicker, how much of inflation is tied to what's happening around the world?
A lot of it, most of it is pandemic related, because as we come out of the pandemic, a lot of people they have a lot of demand for a lot of goods that they were not able to get during the pandemic. They have some saving. There are also supply bottlenecks, and they are still supply bottlenecks. And then on top of that, you've got monopolization. Some big companies, food companies, for example, have monopolized for quite some time, and right now they are really driving prices up. They're taking advantage of this increased demand for food. And then on top of that, the fourth factor is obviously energy prices.
I mean, one of the things that I've learned in reading up on inflation, which really wasn't a thing that I can't say that I had intimate knowledge of inflation before it became cause célèbre. I mean, I took economics, but I don't remember a lot of that. I mean, is this the kind of crisis that the president in the United States can fix through policy? Or is this the kind of crisis that it takes everyone implementing policies all over the world, particularly because we're seeing directly events on the ground in Ukraine have contributed to those rising energy prices, which then trickles down to the price of everything else?
Zerlina, it depends on what you're talking about. I mean, housing, for example, housing prices have been going up for years. And that's mainly because the big millennial generation is moving into the housing market. And, they were born in the 1980s. They all want their housing, or they are driving up rents. The second issue is energy. And obviously, that is a worldwide phenomenon. Energy prices were going up to some extent, obviously, before the Russian invasion. But there was an anticipation of that Russian invasion. We all knew that there was a chance that was pushing up energy futures. And then on top of that, you've got food prices. Those are the three big ones. And in fact, energy and food and housing account for about 63% of the typical family's budget. And if you've got all three of them going up simultaneously, you've got a perfect storm.
That makes so much sense, because it's not like, especially people on fixed incomes or people that, they're living paycheck to paycheck. If gas prices go up, or if it costs more money to get to the job than it does to get paid for the job, that presents a very big problem for you and your family. I mean, how does corporate power impact this? You mentioned that at the top of your first answer about corporate consolidation impacting inflation and the prices that people are paying for everyday products. Break that down for us. How does that contribute to this?
Well, if big corporations were really competitive, if they had to worry about losing consumers if they raise their prices, they'd do everything they could not to raise their prices. And even they would absorb supply shocks, even if they're paying more for certain supplies coming from abroad or wherever. They would try to absorb those rather than simply pass those price increases on to consumers. But they're not. In fact, across America, big corporations are using this period of time to raise their prices, even though they're hugely profitable. In fact, we haven't seen a period of time where big corporations, have generated this much profit. If they were not monopolies, if they were truly in competition, they would not simply pass these prices on to consumers. And that's a big factor. It's not easily remedied. I mean, antitrust laws take some time to work through the system, but I think one thing this should teach us is that big corporations have simply too much pricing power.
Secretary Robert Reich, always great to have you on to help us understand this stuff. You explain it better than most people I know, honestly. I understand it, which is saying a lot. Thank you again for being here, and please stay safe.
Hi, I'm Zerlina Maxwell. Thanks for checking out our channel on YouTube. You can see more from Zerlina by clicking any of the videos on this screen, and make sure you subscribe below to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. Thanks for watching.